Welcome to Building Her Dream, the podcast for introverted entrepreneurs and professionals who are building success on their own terms. I'm your host, Shayla Burton, a business strategist, a community builder, and your fellow introvert. Here, we're all about real conversations, practical strategies, and inspiring stories to help you show up confidently while growing your dreams and honoring your quiet power. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to the Building Her Dream podcast. I'm your host, Shayla Burton, and I'm so excited to chat with today's guest. She is Grace Tabib, the founder of Dupay, an unpaid bill and invoice collecting service, and she's all the way in California. Hello, Grace. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Shayla. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for being here. Now, I always like to start off with a fun question. So, Grace, if you could wake up tomorrow and have your perfect dream life, what would that look like?
I think that's a really interesting question. I think my answer is very different now than it would have been if you would have asked me 20 years ago. Coming out of college, I probably would have had this like imagination for my life in my 40s with a perfect family and disposable income and my perfect CEO job. But I've realized as I've gotten older that perfection can be, the enemy of the good. And I have learned that I need to wake up each day and think that that will be the best day that I'm having. And I need to go to bed being satisfied with, what I was able to accomplish, because I used to get stuck in the trap of getting very frustrated, if things weren't going my way or if I thought that something could have been better. But I think I've learned how to chill out a little bit as I've gotten older and really have an appreciation, for what I have. So of course there's things that I wish I could do. I would love to take some dream vacations or, make sure my kids get into their favorite colleges or something like that. But right now I'm really learning how to appreciate, what I have every single day.
Mm, I love that. I love that. Um, do you keep any type of like a gratitude journal or anything like that?
That's funny because I feel like I give those out as presents. But for myself, it's more just a mental at the end of the day. I don't know if it's like meditation, but just sort of thinking, okay, this is what I did today. I didn't get to everything I needed to do, but I'm okay with that because I really used to burn myself out. And especially having my own business, this is a new experience for me. I started Dupay May 2023, so I'm about a year and a half into it. I just felt like it was a constant sprint and I was just, burning myself out then. And that's, I mean, it's really been growth in the last year and a half, because if you want something, a business to be sustainable or family to be sustainable or literally anything, even an exercise routine to be sustainable, you need to just be happy with what you were able to accomplish within the day.
Mm, yes,
But
I
I mean, a
love that.
gratitude journal would be something that maybe I should look into as well. But that's just something else to do.
Yeah, that's true. I think having a journal, and so I have a journal that I created, but I only spend like 1 minute on it
Yeah,
each day. So I don't spend like hours writing pages. I just
right.
write down like three things that I'm grateful for.
Mhm.
And for me, it's helpful as a reminder just because, sometimes things go wrong in
Right.
life and you focus on those negative things, and and I focus on those negative things and I forget about all the good that has happened. So I need that
Right.
documentation to go back to remind myself. But
Right.
that's why I asked.
Yeah. I think it's a good idea. Maybe 2025.
Maybe.
Right.
Yeah, well, Grace, for those of us who might not be familiar with you and the work you do, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh, great. So I am a lawyer. I was actually, I did a lot of women's rights advocacy, food sustainability before I had my kids. And then I was a stay-at-home mom for about 10 years. But coming out of COVID, I realized that I sort of wanted to do something else. I mean, aside from, being a full-time mom. I did want to do something that bridged my passions and my professional career because I missed working. I missed creating something. And coming out of COVID, like I said, I was reading a lot of articles about freelancers and the increase in the creator economy and some challenges that were coming out of that. And I saw that there was this opening for some kind of service that would help creators with unpaid invoices. So I was doing my research and saw that there were creators or freelancers who were not getting paid for what would be considered smaller amounts less than $500. And they felt like they didn't really have an option. They would just have to take a loss. And then something in me triggered because a lot of these people were women freelancers who had, put in their time, completed a project, and then felt like they had no repercussion if they weren't getting paid, if their client or their customer was refusing to pay them. So we created Dupay. And it's $19 a month subscription, and we help with unlimited unpaid invoices. So we think of it as almost like income protection or income insurance for creators and for freelancers. So it really bridges. I'm not practicing law in this position. I'm more serving as an advocate. So we're able to help people around the country and also around the world. We've helped people in Canada, in the UK, South America, India. So it's just something that's really passionate to me, getting people paid for the work that they've done. Because something that I really value is people's time. And I really hate when people have put time into a project, into work, and then are spending more time chasing their payment rather than just being able to focus on what makes them happy, their own creative juices. And I think that's what happens with creators and freelancers. They don't always see themselves as a business, but you have to be a business if you want to sustain what you're doing.
Yeah. Wow, that is really an amazing service that you offer because, yeah, I hear about stories about, freelancers not being paid and they're wondering what to do. And you could go to small claims court, but it's not worth it when the amounts are so small. And I was wondering, how do you charge for that type of service? Because if we're just trying to collect a smaller amount, would it be worth it? But that $19 subscription model, that's very reasonable. For
It really is. We just collected somebody an invoice for $70, but we've also collected upwards of $10,000. We're currently chasing a
Mhm.
$15,000 invoice. But to me, every single amount of money that people put into their work is important, regardless of whether it's $10 or if it's $100,000. That was the time that you spent completing a project. And to me, it's really important to be paid for people's work. So that's why I love doing this.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I bet it's really satisfying to get those amounts of money for your clients who actually really need it.
Right. I mean, it really is. Even we do most of our, and I think we can talk about social media later, but we do most of our social media right now on X, on Twitter. And our
Mm.
pin post is about a woman, one of our customers, who was really looking for this payment to be able to take her dog to have the surgery of the dog. And she was waiting on it and waiting on it because she had earmarked that for her dog surgery. So we were just so happy when we were able to collect that money for her because she was so grateful. And we find that all of our clients are very grateful and very loyal because they've spent so much time sort of spinning. There's a lot of emotional turmoil that goes along with not getting paid and feeling you won't be able to take care of rent or maybe a kid's camp or your college tuition, because we have a lot of creators who are doing all of this on the side for just additional income. The people are really grateful when we're able to help them. But to your point about what the other options were, I mean, when I was doing my research, the other options were pretty much a collections agency, and they would take 40% of your fee or something like that. And then also, just if I was practicing as a traditional lawyer, I would be charging $200 an hour for one demand letter. So with our protocol, it's $19 a month, and we have a protocol of demand letters and other outreach. So we're really effective. We have almost an 80% success rate for our clients, which is much higher than actually legal demand letters or collections agencies.
Wow.
So we're good at what we do.
Yeah, yeah, it sounds like it. Sounds like a really awesome service, and I'll definitely be saving your information because I know it'll come in handy for a lot of people.
Thank you.
Yeah. And when I saw that that's the type of work that your business does, I thought it was really interesting for an introvert because I'm like,
Mhm.
ooh, do I want to be chasing? Like I've worked in accounts payable accounts payable or accounts receivable, whatever, for a company before. And so I had to call businesses asking, hey, when are you going to pay us? And I just always had so much anxiety doing that. And so I could not imagine having a business where I have to do that all the time.
Well, we don't actually do many phone calls. So it's
Okay.
primarily our demand letters because I mean they are very, legal sounding demand letters because of my
Gotcha.
background. So it's really that. It's more of that kind of outreach rather than
Mm,
calling. We have had to call in the past, but that's really one of the final steps because people usually do recognize a missed payment once we start getting involved because we're a third party. So there's power in a third party chasing you rather than the person that you've been ghosting. So thankfully, I don't have to make that many calls. But if it's something that I really care about, then I can get past it.
right, right. Interesting. Um, I have to write this down because I just thought of a client of mine who I know has a lot of unpaid bills. Like,
Uh-huh.
he definitely needs your service for sure.
Happy to help.
Yes. Um, Now, Grace, I'm wondering, when did you, or when you were younger, did you know that you were an introvert?
You know what is interesting? I didn't know what introvert or extrovert really meant until I became an adult. I think that
Same.
like the notion of introvert means that you're super shy and you're sort of like hiding in the corner all the time. And I wasn't necessarily that, but I never really I didn't feel comfortable in a giant group of people. And to this day, if you meet me one on one, you'll think I'm the most chatty, outgoing person in the world. But if you meet me with five or more people, you'll just think I'm a mute. And it was when I got older and realized the explanation that introvert is where you get your energy from yourself, and an extrovert is you're getting energy from somebody else. And I can just tell the difference between myself and my brother actually, because I wake up in the morning and I'm at 100% the minute I wake up. By the time I get to the evening, I'm at 10%. So my brother, on the other hand, will wake up with 10% and he'll go to sleep at 100% because he needs to have that energy from other people to sort of pep him up.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's necessarily a shy thing or, an outgoing thing. It's really where you get your energy from. And as an entrepreneur, because it's something that's new to me too, actually when you would do the Zoom call, that was my first time really networking because coming out of the
Mm.
summer, I was given the task by my co-founder and he was like, okay, you're going to be the face of this and you're going to go out there and network and make partnerships for us. And I was like, I'm an introvert and that's like my worst nightmare, but you really opened up a space and I really loved how you organized it where we were meeting three people at a time. And there was
Yeah.
already, I think questions that you had laid out, like you talk about these three
Mm.
things, because two truths and a lie is also just, I hate two truths and a lie. I hate when you go into a big group. And I remember this in college and law school to get to know people. I literally would just be stressing out about what my answers would be as it was going around, not listening because I really didn't want to have to talk in front of this big group. So I appreciate that you made a comfortable space. And then
Mm.
I think, I don't know if it was you or somebody, maybe somebody in that group or a different event I had gone to early on said, it's more important when you're going to a networking event to really get to know like one to three people rather than feeling like you have to say hi to everybody in the entire event. Because I think that's what makes it really intimidating going to a big networking event for an introvert if you go in thinking you have to shake everybody's hand. But I think I've
Yeah.
become very successful in going into these networking events because I'm like, okay, you just sort of I feel people's energy. So I'll go up to people. It's usually somebody who's already standing by themselves anyway, and
Yes.
introduce myself. And it did take me a little bit to be able to do that, but I feel like that's been very effective for me because somehow I've been
Mm.
able to click with the people that I'm already drawn to. Um,
Yeah.
so that's been very helpful, I think, in terms of networks and then partnerships. And it's really a lot of following up. But I find it easier to do that one on one rather than so if I meet somebody and it's in a big group, I'll ask them to coffee or to do a Zoom talk or something outside
Mm.
of that because I feel like it's easier to draw connections when you're doing something one on one. And I think
Yeah.
that's something I've always been like, even when I was younger. So I didn't necessarily know what an introvert was when I was younger, but I was definitely that. And now I
Yeah.
accept it and I know what my strengths are as an introvert. I think it's being able to get closer to somebody or forging more of a deep relationship. So I'd rather have a deeper relationship with a smaller group of people than more superficial relationships with a ton of people. Because I think when you
Yeah.
have those, you can't necessarily draw on them. But when you have a deeper relationship, then both sides are more willing to help the other person out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I think when I was younger, I didn't know, I had never heard of the term introvert, like you said, until I was an adult. I was just labeled shy, quiet, and weird just because I wasn't talking to in large groups. But like you, I did talk a lot when it was just me and
Right.
one person.
Exactly.
And this still to this day, I can talk to someone, especially if it's a topic that I'm interested in. Oh, I could talk for hours with just
Right.
one person, and I have. Um, but yeah, large groups, I'm not that great in unless if I am hosting or facilitating. So I started the networking events my own because I would notice when I would attend others, I would have so much anxiety. I think it was because there was no structure
Mhm. Yeah.
and I don't like surprises, and so I need to know exactly what's going to happen. And I also don't like icebreakers, like you said as well. It's like because I'm so focused on trying to figure out what I'm going to say. And yeah, so that's why I decided, let me create my own so I know exactly what happens and
Right.
I can make it comfortable for me and then hopefully other introverts as well.
Right, it worked for me, so thank you. But I do agree that I like going to the events that have more structure, as
Mhm.
opposed to the ones that are just like, "Network." Like,
Go
"Here's
up
a
and
drink,
talk
network." Yeah, right. I love when there's
about what?
either there's a presentation or you're broken up into smaller groups. There's one, founders it's called a Women in Tech Walk that I go on once a month. And I love that we start each meeting with an ask and then how you can help somebody. And I think that's really
Yeah,
great too. And I don't think of that as an icebreaker. I think it's really trying to forge relationships, like not just
yeah,
saying two truths and a lie for the sake of saying it, but actually having an intent
right.
behind a question. And I like that better. And I think that
Yeah.
because maybe a lot of women in tech might be introverts. So
Mhm.
again, whoever organizes them are catering to that need, which is good. It's nice that that's being recognized more. And I think there is more of a distinction now. I even talked to my kids about it. And it's funny though, because there's still always this expectation of people to be more outgoing or to go like meet somebody on a playground or something like that. But the same, like what you're saying, when you're a child, you do sort of have this personality already. And I had found
Mhm.
myself sort of pushing my daughter, especially who's more introverted than my son, like, go make friends with that girl. And she was like, I don't want to. And I had
Right.
to realize, oh, wait, I wouldn't have wanted to either. And it's okay. It's again about energy and who you feel comfortable with. Because I think
Hmm.
extroverts are able to not necessarily feel comfortable with everybody, but at least go up and talk to anybody. I just really am drawn to certain people, and it's just somebody who, yeah, it's just making me feel like a safe place. And it's
Yeah.
not a specific type, it's just an energy.
Hmm. And now, so when you go to in-person networking events and you find that person that you're going to introduce yourself to, like, what do you say?
It usually involves food. So I usually go over and say, well, usually it's just, can I stand here? And then we just get to talking, especially if it's somebody who's, and I mean, these events are either that I've been going to are for women founders or women in tech. I feel more
Gotcha.
comfortable at women's events, honestly,
Hmm.
or women's startups, because it just feels like there's more of a camaraderie there. So that already breaks down the barrier. Um, so yeah, I guess I just start talking about that, or what are we here for, or something like that. One of the best events I went to actually was founded by these two women. Uh, they host events for women in tech, like I was saying, but it was like bouquet making. So it was sort of like mocktails and bouquet making. And I remember her saying, "Oh, we always like to have something going on. So whether it's like a perfume bar or like make your own something, just so that if you need a break, if you sort of need to, internalize yourself a little bit, you can go do something
Yeah.
and come back." And I just really like events like that.
Okay. Good to know because I definitely want to start doing some in-person, hosting
Yes.
some in-person networking events. I just have to figure out how I'm going to structure those, but mm, Good to
I
know.
really like that, and I think that there's other ways to do that. I don't know whether it's like some kind of workshop or a vision board or just something that sort of you're doing it while you're also talking to people, so it's not just,
Yeah.
having to stare at somebody and chat with them, but having something to
Right.
do maybe with your hands that you're working on together. Oh, I did that last year too. I went to this, vision boarding event. It was really nice. There was just a bunch of magazines. Everybody had their own vision board, so you could talk while you were doing something, and I think for introverts, that's actually super helpful. Because you do want to
Yes.
be around people, but you don't
Yeah.
necessarily want to be the focus of attention.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Because before like COVID happened, my plan was to really start forcing myself to go to in-person networking events. And what I realized is that I need a job at the event, so I would often volunteer to help.
Mhm, mhm.
So it's like you said, I'm doing something and
Right.
not necessarily just going just to talk to people, but while I'm working, I'm meeting people and talking to them. And so I
Mhm.
found that um, that made it more comfortable for me.
Right, and then you also have an excuse if you need to exit. Like, "Oh, I need to go fill up the
Yeah.
waters." Then you can sort of have
Hmm.
that out. But you know what? I actually really do enjoy the networking events. I generally come out of them, like, 90% of the time happy and, again, satisfied with what I've been able to do. But it's always
Yeah.
those, like, for those, like, 10 minutes before I have to get in the car, I'm like, "I really don't wanna do this," especially if it's at the end of the day and I already feel drained, and I always need to talk myself back into it and then and since I'm in LA, there's a lot of driving. I,
Yeah.
have to use my car ride to I literally won't listen to anything. I don't even listen to music or the radio, and I'm just like, "Okay, this is my quiet time. I'm decompressing now, and I have to turn it on when I get to the networking event." And I think that's the thing about being an introvert. You do have to turn it on. It's not
Yeah.
necessarily that you don't wanna be there, but you have to harness that energy again, especially if it's at the end of the day, and you need to, make sure that you're there for a reason, for a focus.
Mm,
But I
I
don't
agree.
but it doesn't so that means that introverts can be entrepreneurs, they can be founders. We just have to find a different way to, harness our energy and be able to do these interactions that are so very necessary if you want to grow your business.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Hmm. So you said that you started Dupay in 2023.
Mhm.
So you're still kind of new. And we all know that in entrepreneurship it's kind of like a roller coaster. So there's a lot of ups and then there's a lot of downs. Um, what's a challenge that you've had to work through in your business so far?
Well, this is something that I mentioned earlier, but social media.
Oh yeah.
Social media and really being able to grow on that. We really have been growing organically, which is great. Word of mouth. Again, I said we focused on X because people do like to complain on that more than other than
Mm,
Instagram or on TikTok. That's really what we've been focused on. But we now realize that in order to grow our business, we need to be making videos and on Instagram and TikTok and sort of focusing on that more. And that has been incredibly challenging for me because even I don't have a personal Instagram page. I think my last one is from the first or Women's March, literally, is my last Instagram post. Never posted a video. So I, have been very challenged in doing that. I have spent hours by myself researching, trying to figure out the best way to grow a business on Instagram. And finally, I needed to outsource. So, very thankfully, a friend of a friend recommended a woman who actually came to my house yesterday, and she's
mm,
lovely. She made me so comfortable. She's super young. I think I was already in college when she was born, but that means I'm not even kidding. That she has so much experience in social media. She has a huge following herself, but she really had to be the one to force me very nicely to make a video because left to my own devices, and again, this is part of my learning about perfection cannot be the enemy of the good, because I was taking these videos and I just criticized myself and I don't look right and I don't know how to say this. Is that what my voice sounds like? I don't want to post this and have people look at me, even though that's the whole point of it. But she made me comfortable. So I needed to
mm.
invest in that. We've literally spent no money marketing at this point. So this was a huge investment for us. And I'm really happy that I found her because she will now take all the videos. We pretty much did a month's worth of videos in 3 hours because I didn't want to force myself to keep doing this. And now she'll
Yeah.
go and edit everything for me. So I couldn't have done this on my own because I would have just kept coming up with excuses. But we know that social media is super important. Um,
Yeah.
Really happy that we're investing in somebody to help me. But
Yeah.
before her, I've been really struggling with this for the last 3 weeks. It was taking up all my time because I literally didn't know what to do. It would almost be like asking a non-lawyer to go in case to go to court and defend somebody because it was so outside of my comfort zone, nothing that I'd ever wanted to do. So that's been a huge
Yeah.
challenge. And also another challenge has been doing presentations because I don't
Mm.
particularly like speaking in front of people. But with Dupay, I do trainings and talk about unpaid invoices and how to protect yourself, what to do after there's an unpaid invoice. We have a contract check report. I go through different terms of a contract. But before I have a training, I also really have to ground myself and realize this is something I know. People are there for the information. Nobody is judging me. They're really just there to listen to what I have to say. But I do have to, talk myself up every single time I have a presentation because it makes me nervous. And I feel like some people are just so
Yeah.
natural and make it seem so easy. And I hope to get to that point, but I'm not quite there yet. But after I'm done, everybody always, is like, that was so helpful. Thank you for doing this. But for the like 2 hours before that, I'm a stress ball.
Yeah, I absolutely get that. I get a lot of anxiety when I have to present, but I find that I do really good. Like what you said, a lot of people compliment me. And depending on what topics or pretty much whatever I guess it doesn't matter what the topic is. I have a very like a dry sense of humor, and so people are always laughing when I'm presenting, even though I'm not really telling jokes. Uh,
That's a good thing.
right, right. But yeah, I find like with presentations, I just have to be really prepared. Like even if it's a topic that I know a lot about, I still get a lot of anxiety, and so I just have to make sure that I have kind of what I want to say prepared just to fall back on in my mind. But yeah, I think it does get a lot easier the more you do it. Yeah. Um, so business isn't all about, or life isn't all about just work. When you're not working, when you're not running your business, like what do you do for fun?
So I have 2 kids. So a lot of my non-business time is spent with them or running them around, but I've been able to find things that I like doing with each one of them, which is really nice. So I cook with my son, and we'll cook several times a week. We're going to cook today. We're going to have a big barbecue and have people over. And then with my daughter, we like to just go antiquing, which is funny because she's only 9, but she's definitely an old soul. So I
Yeah.
like doing both of those things, but it's really also important for me to exercise. I love running. So, especially at the end of the day, I go running at night. It's pretty nice here since we're in LA. I can just run to the ocean essentially and run back. And I just need that time to myself to clear my head. So, the things that I enjoy doing, I like doing things with the family, of course, but I really like having that time to myself. So, I like running, I like walking, I like just walking by the beach. I just need that time to clear my head. And then
Mhm.
I like to hang out with people every once in a while. But sometimes
Yeah.
I find, especially in the last couple of weeks, I've booked too many things, and now I'm just looking
Mhm.
forward to, like, vegging out and watching TV when we go visit my in-laws next week. So
Yeah.
that'll be nice to have that time to just do nothing because you
Hmm.
definitely need that too, especially at the end of the year, especially when so many outside things are going on, all the holidays, all the expectations. It'll be
Right.
nice just to chill a little bit, and I definitely look forward to that as much as I can. Sometimes I feel like there's no time in the day to chill, but it's
Yeah.
really I have to look at it more as a weekly thing, like, as long as I have a couple times during the week to chill and not have to think about anything, that'll get me through.
Yeah.
But I think that's really important to have time like that. And maybe I do get a gratitude journal and use that as some of my time and maybe not feel the need to write in it every day, but maybe have, challenge myself to write in it 2 or 3 times a week, and I think that would be a nice activity to just stay grounded.
Yeah.
But I feel like
Yeah.
this all
Yeah.
comes with age. I feel like I'm just
Mhm.
not a different person, but I am a more mature version of who I was when I was, 22. And I feel like there's just things that I appreciate more. I think having losses in the family and, just different challenges really just make you take stock of what's important. And I just try to do a
Yeah.
little bit of that every single week. But the business,
Yeah.
your own business, it could be nonstop. I could be working 24 hours a day because there's something you always feel like you need to be doing, and there's greatness in that, and there's also great frustration in that when you feel like you're never quite doing enough, but you have to do what you can.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I think a lot of people operate in the the mode where you should always be like productive.
Right.
Like I hear that all the time. Like people say, "Oh, I need to, or they feel guilty about not being productive.
Mhm. Right.
Um, and that's weird to me because I don't feel guilty at all. I can sit all day on my couch watching TV and be happy and not be concerned about it.
Right.
Because I
Well,
feel
that's
like
good. People
you
need to learn.
need that time.
You're right.
Mm-hmm.
I completely agree, and not feel guilty about it. That's the thing,
Yeah.
is not feel guilty about it. What I actually like doing is when I really need to decompress, I need to leave my house, because if I don't,
Mm,
there's always laundry to be done, some kind of meal to
yeah.
be prepped, or something to be put away, or a closet to be cleaned, but I just will that's why I need to run. And,
Yeah.
like, not that I'm running away, but that I'm just running so I'm not in the house all the time, because when I work, I work from home, so
Yeah.
most of the time I'm here anyway. It just feels like it can feel very repetitive. So it's good to go get some fresh air and take a break
Yeah.
and not feel guilty. And I have to remind myself too, like, don't feel guilty. This will be there tomorrow. It's okay. Everything is okay.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Well, Grace, it has been so lovely chatting with you. Um, Before we go, I just wanted to give you an opportunity. If there's anything else you want to share with our audience, you can do that. Or if you can just let us know where we can find more information about you and your company.
Oh, great. Yes, if you have a problem with an unpaid invoice, we also have additional tools available for our subscribers, an invoice generator, invoice system, that all is included in the subscription. You can find us at dupay.me. So it's just DUPAY.me. So you get it, like, do pay me.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yes.
and then my email is grace@dupay.me. So again, DUPAY.me. And we would love to help you. This is something that I really care about, and I love to help people get paid.
Awesome, awesome. So we'll definitely check out your website and your social media as well. Thank you so much again for joining me, Grace. This has been another episode of the Building Her Dream podcast. If you've enjoyed it, why don't you go ahead and subscribe, leave us a review, and stay up to date with what we're doing by visiting www.buildingherdream.com.